We know that the current fiscal arrangements between the Port Authority and Newark are based largely on the true-up agreement, which you've been both talking about. The Port Authority collects $569 million in rent annually, which the city only gets compensated $75 million a year. How would your administration change the current fiscal structure of agreements with the Port Authority to get more for Newark? And what other mechanisms would you employ to acquire more financial employment and economic gains for the city from the port? And as much as you can be specific, it would be helpful. Thank you.
Well, there's a few things that we need to talk about. So the agreement states that we get money off the gross. And so while Port Authority doesn't develop in the area that Newark owns, we get less money off the gross. So we have to begin to encourage them to develop on the areas that Newark own that right now they do not develop on. If you go there's pounds of dirt, there's office space for Port Authority, there's a dog pound. I know I've been down there inspecting the area. There's areas there that need to be developed all around that Port Authority area to begin to provide not just jobs for Newarkers, but to get more money through that true-up. We also need to get a law firm to do a financial audit, a forensic audit of all of the income that's coming in through Port Authority, to begin even the subsidiary income that comes through Port Authority, so we begin to find out if we're actually getting the right amount of money that we're supposed to get from the Port Authority, so we can get the true, what they say, the true-up, or the true amount of money that Newark is supposed to get every single day. So we have to have a watchdog, if you will, in the Housing and Office of Economic Development that begins to focus on Port Authority, the growth of the seaport jobs, Port Authority jobs, but making sure that they begin to pay Newark its fair share. They've been getting away with murder at the Port Authority for a bunch of years. It wasn't until Donald Tucker and the previous mayor, Sharp James, took these folks to court that we were even able to get the amount of money that we get in Newark now, and got almost $1 billion in court settlement. So we need to begin to do more along those lines to create the kind of revenue that's coming through the Port Authority and force them to give us the jobs every single day. There's also a pipeline in the city of Newark. We have the fastest growing technology under our ground, and we're getting ready to put some fiber optics in the pipeline to make sure that Newark gets the fastest internet almost in the country. We can begin to shoot a line through line of sight down to the Port Authority to make sure that they get internet Wi-Fi access to increase the amount of international and national developers that come into that city, but also use that as an opportunity to leverage to get back to the table to say, this is what we want from you if we begin to give you this internet access.
You know, we have to be clear. Unfortunately, we're in the middle of a very bad deal. And so we have to use every lever in our power in order to reopen that deal. I think the fact that the Bayonne Bridge is going up and it's going to increase the amount of pollutants and the amount of toxins that Newarkers inhale, that creates an opportunity to reopen this deal. To say that we're going to pay a disproportionate price for that additional traffic that's coming through the port. Our residents, we're going to see some residents potentially lose their lives because of the additional traffic that's coming into the port. So that's an opportunity to actually reopen that deal and have a different conversation about what we're getting out of it. Because right now, we're basically being fleeced right now. We're being robbed right now in terms of a little bit of money we're getting back for the investment of our land and frankly for the investment of our health, which is a cost that none of us should have to pay in terms of fewer years in our lives or increased loss of life. We absolutely have to audit those books. We don't have access to the books. We haven't looked at the books. And we absolutely have to audit those books so we can make sure we're getting the percentage that we're entitled to. And so we have to have an in-house auditing department that can work to make sure we're getting the dollars and resources we're entitled to. So that's absolutely fundamental. We can't allow these books to be in secret and we just receive whatever payment that the Port Authority decides to give us. We have to challenge that. We have to look at those books. We have to examine every penny that's coming into the port, and we need to make sure we're getting our fair share. And you will have a mayor who will personally be involved in that process. This is so fundamental to the future of our city that we're not going to outsource that. That's not going to be others who are doing that. That's going to be your mayor himself, who's sitting with the port, who's sitting with the executive director of the port, who's sitting with the officials on the state side of the port to make sure that, one, we're getting our fair share economically, but just as important, and in fact even more important, that we're reducing these costs that we're bearing in terms of loss of life and in terms of health consequences.